God's Debris by Scott Adams. The Old Man. The oversized knob offered no resistance as it turned on its oiled core. It was no longer a surprise to find unlocked doors in the city. Maybe at some subconscious level we believe we don't need protection from our own species. I figured I would leave the package inside the door and sign the customer's name. I had signed for customers before. No one had complained yet. It was a firing offense, but that only happened if you got caught. Inside, I could see a long, dark hallway with red faux-textured walls, lined with large, illuminated paintings. At the end was a half-open door to a room that hosted a flickering light. Someone was home and should have heard the doorbell. I didn't like the look of it. Occasionally you read about an elderly person who dies alone and no one knows about it for weeks. My mind went there. I stepped inside and closed the door, enjoying the warmth, deciding what to do next. "Hello," I said in my professional voice, hoping it sounded non-threatening. I shuffled my way down the hall, noticing that the art looked original. Someone had money. Lots. The source of the uneven light was a huge stone fireplace. I entered the room, not sure why I was being quiet. An old man's voice rose from the texture. "I've been expecting you." I was startled and feeling a bit guilty about letting myself in. It took me a minute to locate the source of the voice. It was as if it came from the room itself. Something moved, and I noticed. On the far side of the fireplace, in a wooden rocker, a smallish form in a red plaid blanket, looking like a hastily rolled cigar. His tiny wrinkled hands held the blanket like button clasps. 2 undersized feet in cloth slippers dangled from the wrap. "Your door was unlocked," I said, as if that were reason enough to let myself in. "I have a package." All I heard was the fire. I expected an answer. That's how it's supposed to work. When one person says something, the other person is supposed to say something back. The old man wasn't subscribing. He stared at me and rocked, sizing me up, perhaps, or maybe he was lost in a replay. I had already said what I needed to say, so I stood silently for what seemed too long. I thought I saw the wake of a smile, or maybe it was a muscle tremor. He spoke in the deliberate manner of a man who had not used his voice in days, and asked a strange question. "If you toss a coin 1,000 times, how often will it come up heads?" The elderly are spooky when they degenerate into reflections of their younger selves. They say things that make sense on some grammatical level, but it's not always connected to reality. I remembered my grandfather in his declining years, how he spoke in non-sequiturs. It was best to play along. "About 50% of the time," I answered before changing the subject. "I need a signature for this package." "Why?" "Well," I said, measuring how much information to include in my response, "the person who sent the package wants a signature. He needs confirmation that it got delivered." "I meant, why does the coin come up heads 50% of the time?" "I guess that's because the coin weighs about the same on both sides, so there's a 50-50 chance it will land on one side versus the other." I tried to avoid sounding condescending. I wasn't sure I succeeded. "You haven't answered why. You simply listed some facts." I saw what was going on. The old man pulls this trick question on anyone who comes within range. There had to be a punchline or a clever answer, so I played along. "What's the answer?" I asked, with all the artificial interest I could muster. "The answer," he said, "is that the question has no why." "You could say that about anything." "No," he replied in a manner that seemed suddenly coherent. "Every other question has an answer to why. Only probability is inexplicable." I waited for a moment for the punchline, but it didn't come. "That's it?" I asked. It's more than it seems. I still need a signature. I approached the old man and held out the clipboard, but he made no motion to take it. I could see him better now. His skin was stained and wrinkled, but his eyes were strikingly clear. Some gray hair gathered above each ear, and his posture was an ongoing conversation with gravity. He wasn't old. He was ancient. Would you mind throwing another log on the fire? I picked out a big one. The retiring embers celebrated its arrival. I had the brief impression that the log was glad to help, to do its part keeping the old man warm. It was a silly thought. I brushed off my hands and turned to leave. That chair is yours, he said, gesturing to a wooden rocker next to his. I hadn't noticed the second chair. The old man's face revealed a life of useful endeavor. I had a sense that he deserved companionship, and I was happy to give some. My other choice involved a bag lunch in the back of my truck. Maybe there wasn't any choice at all. I settled into the rocking chair, letting its rhythm unwind me. It was profoundly relaxing. The room seemed more vivid now and vibrated with the personality of its master. It was as if the room had sprung directly from the earth into the middle of San Francisco.